What if I told you that the language your soul speaks the most fluently is one you've forgotten how to hear, long before you ever learned to speak a word, long before society taught you how to name objects, follow rules, or explain yourself using logic and structure? Your soul was already speaking, not in words, not in sentences, but in symbols, feelings, visions, and stories that unfolded behind closed eyes. This was the original language, the purest, the oldest, the most honest. Dreams were never just dreams. They were the first spiritual messages you received, messages without sound, without grammar, but heavy with meaning. In the quiet of sleep, when the world outside finally fades, that ancient voice rises again. It speaks in colors that don't exist in daylight, in landscapes that stretch beyond logic, in people who are both familiar and unknowable. These are not random illusions. They are living metaphors. Each dream is a transmission from the part of you that remembers who you are, even when your waking mind forgets. But somewhere along the way, something changed. You were taught to forget. Not directly. No one told you to stop listening to your dreams. It was more subtle than that. The forgetting came wrapped in textbooks and routines, in alarm clocks and deadlines. It came the moment you were praised for being realistic, and gently corrected when your imagination wandered too far. You were taught that dreams were just mental residue, a byproduct of brain activity, nothing more than a psychological glitch. And so, night after night, you began to ignore them. You woke up, felt the lingering pull of something mysterious, and brushed it aside as nonsense. You told yourself it didn't matter. But deep down, something inside you knew it did. Because a part of you has always remembered. You know this. You've felt it. The way a dream lingers in your chest long after your eyes open. The way it colors your morning with a feeling you can't explain. The way it sometimes returns again and again, knocking louder each time. These aren't mistakes of the mind. They are the language of the soul, still trying to reach you. Dreams don't come to confuse you. They come to remind you. They remind you of everything your conscious mind has pushed away. Things you've avoided. Feelings you've buried, truths you've sensed but never spoken, and they do so in a way that slips past your defenses. Because the soul doesn't argue or convince, it paints, it plays. It shows you what you need to see in the form of symbols, shadows, and surreal moments that bypass logic and speak directly to the core of your being. This is the brilliance of dream language. It uses metaphor like a surgeon uses a scalpel. It cuts through noise and reveals what is hidden. And unlike waking conversation, which often relies on masks and social filters, dream imagery is raw. It tells you what you don't want to hear in the only way you'll actually listen. Not through confrontation, but through sensation. Think about it. In a dream, you don't just see a message, you feel it. If you dream of being chased, your body tightens. If you dream of flying, you wake with a sense of weightlessness. These are not just emotional echoes. They are the soul's method of anchoring meaning into your nervous system. The message isn't just intellectual, it's visceral, and yet, so many of us wake up and dismiss it. We say, "That was a weird dream," and move on with our day, never realizing that the weirdness was precisely the point. The unfamiliar texture of a dream is what makes it effective. It forces you to look closer. It invites you into curiosity. It asks you to feel beyond the surface. But in a world that celebrates logic, structure, and external achievement, this inner world often gets neglected. We've been conditioned to trust only what can be measured, defined, or proven. And because dreams refuse to fit neatly into those boxes, they're often dismissed. But let me ask you this. Have you ever had a dream that showed you something you couldn't explain, and yet it haunted you for days? Or weeks? Maybe it gave you a feeling you couldn't shake. Maybe it pointed to something you hadn't admitted to yourself. Maybe it felt more real than reality itself. That is not by accident. The soul is patient, but persistent. It will keep speaking to you through dreams, not because it's trying to control you, but because it's trying to connect with you, to guide you, to wake you up from the illusions you live in by day. Dreams hold the blueprint of your emotional and spiritual reality. They show you where you're wounded, where you're ready to grow, where you're still asleep to parts of your own truth. When you dream, you enter a space where time dissolves, where the subconscious rises, where the masks you wear during the day fall away. It's a sacred space, a meeting place between the you that functions and the you that feels. And in that space, you're offered insight that no book, no teacher, and no philosophy can give you. Because it's not someone else's wisdom. It's your own. But to reclaim this language, you have to remember how to listen, and listening begins with reverence. You must begin treating dreams as sacred communications, not trivial distractions. Keep a journal by your bed. Write down the fragments even if they don't make sense, especially if they don't make sense. The more you listen, the more you'll be given. Because that's how soul language works. It rewards your attention with clarity. And soon, you'll notice patterns. Certain symbols will repeat, feelings will echo, themes will circle back. Like a poet refining their verse, your soul will keep shaping the message until it finally lands in your conscious awareness. And when it does, something amazing happens. You begin to trust it. You begin to recognize the difference between a random dream and a soul message. You begin to feel the meaning, even when you can't explain it. And that feeling, that subtle but powerful knowing, becomes a compass. It begins to guide your waking life. You make choices differently. You speak more honestly. You notice synchronicities you once ignored. You begin to live from a deeper place, because you're no longer cut off from yourself. That is the gift of dreams, not just what they show you while you sleep, but what they awaken in you once you're awake. You weren't meant to be a stranger to this inner world. You were born fluent in it. You were born dreaming. And even now, your soul hasn't stopped speaking. The question is not whether it's talking. The question is, are you ready to remember the language? What if I told you that every time you fall asleep, you're not escaping reality, you're returning to it? That the world you leave behind when your eyes close isn't the only world that exists, but just one side of a much vaster truth. You've been taught to see waking life as the main event, the place where things happen, where choices are made, where life unfolds. But what if that's just half the story? What if the most important parts of your journey don't happen in the hours you're awake, but in the quiet spaces in between, when you dream? The day belongs to the physical world, to form, to effort, to visible movement. It's filled with obligations, distractions, decisions, and a constant tug-of-war between what you feel and what the world demands from you. You're constantly looking outward at people, screens, responsibilities and goals. You think with language, you move with intention, you act through the will of the conscious mind. But the night is different. The night belongs to the soul. When darkness falls and silence returns, something inside you begins to stir. The body might lie still, nestled beneath covers or stretched across a bed, but your awareness doesn't sleep. It simply shifts. It retracts from the external, like a wave pulling back from the shore, and drifts toward the inner ocean you've carried within you all along. This isn't unconsciousness. This is remembrance. You see, sleep isn't a shutdown. It's a surrender. Not to nothingness, but to everything you've forgotten in the daylight. And in that surrender, your soul finally gets to speak again. Not in words or logic, but in images, feelings, landscapes, and symbols. It paints stories across your inner sky, stories that are wild and strange, yet deeply familiar, stories that make no sense to the linear mind, but awaken something ancient inside of you. That is dreaming, that is home. Every time you drift into sleep, you're returning to a space untouched by time. A place without traffic lights, clocks, or email notifications. A place where your name doesn't matter, where no one asks for your resume, where you aren't required to explain yourself. You're not just resting, you're re-entering the temple of your inner world. You're not checking out, you're checking in. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Consciousness doesn't disappear when you fall asleep. It simply changes channels. It shifts frequencies. You go from the outer broadcast of the thinking mind to the quiet current of the deeper self. That's where the dream realm begins, not as a fantasy, but as another layer of you, a more honest one. Have you noticed how dreams sometimes bring up things you've ignored during the day? emotions you've buried, desires you never gave yourself permission to feel. This is not random. It's the soul pulling you back into balance. When the day leaves you fragmented, the night tries to make you whole again. And the more you resist this return, the more restless your sleep becomes. Insomnia, night terrors, the feeling of being jolted awake for no reason, these aren't accidents. They're signals, echoes, your soul knocking on the door saying, "I'm still here, and I have something to show you." Think of the waking world as the classroom, and the dream realm as the home you return to afterward. You learn, yes, but you also unlearn. You release, you process. In waking life, you're often pretending being what others need you to be, doing what you're expected to do. But in dreams, the masks fall away. The version of you that shows up there is raw and real, unfiltered by societal roles or survival instincts. It's you, untamed. Some people believe dreams are meaningless noise, a byproduct of random brain chemistry. But you know better, don't you? Because you've felt it. You've woken up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, not because something illogical happened, but because something real did. You've had moments where a dream stayed with you for days, hanging in your mind like perfume on skin. You've felt grief in a dream so heavy it made you cry. You've felt joy so pure it lingered long after you woke. That isn't fiction. That's soul memory. This is why ancient cultures revered dreams, not as distractions, but as messages. They understood that sleep was a portal, not a pause. A nightly descent into the inner sanctum where the veil between worlds grows thin and truth seeps through. And maybe you've forgotten how to listen, maybe no one ever taught you how, but your soul has never stopped speaking. Not once. Each time you lay down to sleep, you're not moving away from reality. You're stepping into a deeper layer of it, one that isn't ruled by time or space, one where your highest self waits patiently, whispering in symbols, waiting to be remembered. This is why dreams often feel more vivid than life, why a single moment in a dream can leave a stronger impression than an entire day of conversations, because you're not just watching, you're remembering. You're not dreaming from your head, you're dreaming from your soul, and the soul does not sleep. It waits, it watches, it whispers, not with fear, but with love, not with logic, but with light. It uses the night to call you back to yourself. And it will keep calling, night after night, until you begin to remember who you truly are, beneath the masks, beneath the noise, beneath the thoughts. So, the next time you feel tired, or tempted to rush past your rest, remember this. Sleep is sacred. Not because it recharges your body, but because it reconnects you to your source. It's not an escape from life. It's an invitation to return to the parts of you that the daylight often silences. Let yourself return, let yourself dream. Because in dreaming, you are not running away. You are going home. What if I told you that every single dream you've ever had, no matter how strange, confusing, or fragmented, was not random, but sacred? You see, you've been taught to think of dreams as leftover static from the day, the mind's way of untangling thoughts before rest. But that's only a sliver of the truth. In reality, your dreams are sacred transmissions, carefully crafted messages woven from the fabric of your subconscious and your higher self. They are not accidents of sleep, they are conversations with your soul. Every dream you experience is intentional. Even the ones that seem incoherent or bizarre are constructed with purpose. It's easy to overlook them because they don't speak in linear logic or straightforward language, but that's not how your deeper self communicates. It doesn't rely on grammar or clarity. It relies on resonance, on the symbolic, on what bypasses the mind and goes straight into the feeling. In your dreams, you are not being entertained, you are being spoken to, whispered to, nudged, called. Your soul doesn't shout, it doesn't beg for attention. It speaks in symbols, metaphors, impressions, and deep emotion. It shows you what the waking mind is too busy, too distracted, or too guarded to see. And this isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a truth ancient cultures have known for thousands of years. Long before modern psychology tried to explain dreams as neural residue or cognitive housekeeping, humanity already understood that dreams were holy. The Egyptians believed dreams were direct messages from the divine, messages that could shape destiny, predict outcomes, and reveal hidden knowledge. They recorded them on temple walls, consulted priests to interpret them, and built entire rituals around dream states. They didn't dismiss them as nonsense. They revered them as sacred portals. The Tibetan mystics developed entire systems of dream yoga, training themselves to remain conscious within the dream state so they could receive guidance and dissolve illusion. They understood that what happened in dreams was just as real, if not more real, than what happened while awake. To them, the dream world was not a fantasy, it was a dimension of the soul. A classroom of consciousness, a mirror held up by the cosmos to reflect back the truth of who you are. And among indigenous peoples across the world, dreams were and still are respected as vital threads in the web of spiritual life. In many native traditions, dreams are seen as the space where the veil thins, where ancestors visit, where spirit animals appear, where insight arrives not through reason, but revelation. A child with a vivid dream would not be ignored, they would be guided. The dream would be shared with the tribe, honored, interpreted, and acted upon. So what happened to us? When did we lose our reverence for this sacred language? Somewhere along the way, we traded intuition for analysis, mystery for measurement. The rise of industry demanded structure, logic, repetition. Sleep became a necessity, not a sanctuary. And dreams, those strange, untamed expressions of the soul, were reduced to biological leftovers, something to be discarded the moment we opened our eyes. But the truth is, your soul has never stopped sending messages. It still speaks, night after night, using the only language it has left, the language you once knew intimately as a child, before you were taught to ignore it. When you dream of water, it's not just water, it's emotion, flow, depth. When you dream of being chased, it's not just fear, it's resistance, something within you that wants to be acknowledged but has been avoided. A house isn't just a house, it's your inner structure. A broken door might reflect vulnerability, a hidden room might represent a forgotten part of yourself. Nothing in a dream is what it seems on the surface. Everything is a symbol, a message, a mirror, and these symbols aren't generic, they are deeply personal. Your soul uses the memories, archetypes, and feelings that are meaningful to you. That's why two people can have the same dream scenario but receive entirely different messages. The dream knows your language, it knows your stories, it knows what will shake you, stir you, awaken you. Sometimes, a dream feels so vivid, so alive, that you wake up in tears or awe or fear. Those aren't just emotions, they are signals. When something lingers like that, it's because your soul is trying to make sure you don't forget. It's asking you to listen, to not move on too quickly, to ask, what was I being shown? What truth was waiting beneath the strangeness? Even fragmented dreams hold meaning, even the ones that feel like random clips stitched together out of nowhere. There's always a pattern, a rhythm, a deeper pulse. The reason it feels chaotic is not because it lacks meaning. It's because the waking mind is not fluent in this symbolic language. It's like hearing poetry in a foreign tongue. The structure is beautiful, but you miss the message until you take time to learn how to translate. This is why dream interpretation is not about looking up symbols in a dictionary. It's about emotional resonance. What did the dream feel like? What did that person represent to you? Why did that place feel familiar even if you've never seen it before? These are not coincidences. They are clues. Your subconscious is not trying to confuse you, it's trying to reach you. Your higher self is not sending riddles just to be cryptic. It's giving you exactly what you need, in the form you're most likely to notice. A feeling, a symbol, a memory, a mystery, and the more you honor these messages, the clearer they become. When you begin to treat your dreams as sacred, you open a doorway within yourself. You start to feel connected again, not just to your inner world, but to something timeless and universal. You begin to remember that there's a part of you that never forgot how to listen. that still lives in that ancient space where spirit speaks in stories, where intuition is the only compass, where the veil is thin and the voice is clear. This is not about becoming an expert in symbolism. It's about becoming intimate with your own soul. It's about remembering what ancient cultures never forgot, that dreams are not meaningless. They are messages. Invitations, maps. They don't come to distract you, they come to direct you. They don't show you nonsense, they show you the parts of yourself you can no longer ignore. And once you begin to understand this, something inside of you shifts. You no longer wake up and shrug off the night. You wake up wondering what message was waiting. You carry that question with you throughout the day. And over time, your waking life becomes more aligned with your dreaming life. You start to see symbols not just while sleeping, but in conversations, in songs, in signs, in synchronicities. Because the truth is, once you open the door to this sacred language, it never closes again. Your soul has always been speaking, and the dream is its sacred voice. What if I told you that your soul has been speaking to you your entire life, but you've been trying to understand it in the wrong language? You search for meaning in words, in logic, in sentences with punctuation and grammar. But your soul doesn't speak like that. It never has. It speaks in symbols, in images, in moments that feel surreal but unmistakably real. When you dream, you aren't watching random clips stitched together from daily stress. You are receiving messages, wrapped in metaphor, encoded in the alphabet of your deeper self. The subconscious mind doesn't write essays. It doesn't speak in tidy paragraphs. It sends impressions, emotions, symbols that strike you with meaning you can't quite put into words, but you feel them all the same. That's the soul's alphabet. It speaks in dreams, not to confuse you, but to bypass the noise of your logical mind. Because logic has walls. Symbols pass through them like light through stained glass. A dream of standing barefoot in the rain isn't just a dream, it's a message. Maybe it means you're being cleansed. Maybe it's calling you back to simplicity, back to feeling the earth and sky. The meaning doesn't live in the image alone, it lives in the way that image makes you feel. That's the key to decoding dreams, not with intellect, but with intuition. The mistake so many people make is trying to interpret dreams like math problems. They search online for the meaning of a snake, or a falling elevator, or a red door. But your dreams weren't created by Google. They weren't assembled by a machine. They were composed by your own subconscious, tailored specifically for you. The meaning of a symbol isn't fixed. It shifts, based on your experiences, your memories, your energy. A snake may represent fear for one person, but transformation for another. A door might mean closure, or it might mean a beginning. You can't decode a dream by asking someone else what it meant. You have to ask your soul. That's why every detail matters. The colors, the textures, the people, the way the air felt. Did the room feel cold or warm? Were you running, floating, standing still? Were you scared or liberated? These aren't background elements, they're the message itself. Color in a dream isn't decoration, it's vibration. Red might signal anger, urgency, or life force energy. Blue might mean peace, distance, or longing. Green might be growth, healing, or envy. The subconscious chooses color not for aesthetics, but resonance. Environments matter too. Walking through a dark forest is different than walking through a childhood home. A dream set in your old high school might be calling you back to a pattern you developed there, one you haven't outgrown. An airport might suggest transition, a train, momentum. A basement might symbolize the subconscious itself, a descent into what's hidden beneath your daily awareness. People who appear in your dreams are not always themselves. A friend, a stranger, a parent, a lover, they may not be who you think they are. Often they represent aspects of your own psyche. That ex who keeps appearing may not be about them at all. They might symbolize the part of you that still seeks validation, or fears rejection, or clings to the past. That wise old man in your dream may be your own inner knowing. That child might be the innocence you've neglected. Dreams don't cast characters randomly. They use faces to reflect states of consciousness. Objects hold meaning too. a broken clock, a burning candle, a locked box. These are not props, they're keys. They appear because your soul is trying to show you something that words can't quite explain. A broken clock might be telling you that time no longer applies to your healing. A candle could be a reminder that your inner light still burns, even if you forgot. A locked box might be the heart you've sealed up, asking to be opened again. But to truly understand these symbols, you must learn to feel into them, not analyze, feel. Interpretation is not an intellectual exercise, it's an act of presence. Sit with a dream. Let it wash over you. Close your eyes and bring the symbol to mind. Ask yourself, what does this stir inside me? Not what it should mean, but what it does mean to you. If it makes you cry, there's a reason. If it brings relief, there's a message. You already know the truth, you just haven't remembered how to hear it. This is what makes dream work sacred. It's not psychology. It's not fortune-telling, it's soul dialogue. Each symbol is a sacred glyph, a whisper from within, a signpost pointing you back to alignment. And when you begin to pay attention, something extraordinary happens. The dreams become clearer. The symbols become bolder, the messages begin to weave together. Your soul sees that you're listening, so it speaks louder. You begin to dream of bridges when you're in transition, of oceans when your emotions are too vast to hold. You see fire when it's time to release, water when it's time to cleanse, flight when it's time to rise. You start to recognize the rhythm. You realize the dream world isn't a backdrop, it's a classroom. Every night, your soul gives you homework, not to punish you, but to heal you. Not to grade you, but to guide you. It's important to understand, symbols don't show up to make you guess. They show up because the soul is doing everything it can to help you remember. Remember what you've forgotten, what you've denied, what you were born knowing. The soul speaks in symbols, not to be cryptic, but to go deeper than surface language allows. Words live in the head, symbols live in the heart. If you're dreaming of drowning, maybe you've been overwhelmed. If you're climbing a mountain, maybe your soul is reminding you of your strength. If you're stuck in a house you can't leave, maybe your current mindset is the prison. The dream doesn't need to say it aloud, it shows you. It plays it out like theater, and then hands you the script when you wake up. It's up to you whether or not you read it. And here's the miracle. The more fluent you become in this symbolic language, the more your life begins to change. Not just your dreams, but your waking reality. You start to see symbols in the world around you. A crow flying overhead feels like a sign. A song that plays at the perfect moment feels like a message. A sudden memory resurfacing feels like guidance. Because it is. Your soul doesn't clock out in the daylight, it just speaks more quietly. But once you've learned to listen through symbols, you can hear it anytime, anywhere. Dreams are not stories you forget upon waking, they are blueprints, mirrors, maps, and the symbols they carry are not puzzles to solve, they are offerings. Pieces of yourself, returned to you one fragment at a time. So the next time you dream, don't dismiss it, don't rush past it. Ask yourself, what did my soul just say to me? And listen not with your mind, but with your whole being. Because your soul is still speaking. It always has been. Through symbols, through images, through dreams. This is the alphabet of your soul, and you were born fluent in it. Have you ever wondered why a dream can leave you shaken, moved, or mysteriously comforted even when it makes no sense at all? There's a reason it lingers. A reason why, long after the images have faded, the feeling remains. That strange heaviness in your chest, that soft ache behind your ribs, that subtle knowing in your gut. Those aren't random reactions, they are reflections. Your dreams are not just stories playing in your mind. They are mirrors held up to your soul, not distorted glass, but sacred ones, the kind that show you not just who you think you are, but who you truly are beneath all the layers. Each night, when your eyes close and the world outside dissolves, something powerful begins. Your ego loosens its grip. The filters you wear in the day, the roles you play, the masks you hold up, the lies you tell yourself to keep going, they begin to slip away. And what's left behind is raw and real. In that space, your subconscious steps forward, silent all day, but wide awake now. It begins to speak, not in words, but in symbols, not in lectures, but in echoes. It gathers what's been left unspoken, the unprocessed grief, the hidden joy, the buried fears, the forgotten memories, and it crafts them into a dream. You may see yourself walking through a house with endless doors. You may dream of a storm that swallows everything, or a person you haven't thought of in years suddenly appearing with a message in their eyes. These aren't illusions, they are reflections. Everything you dream is showing you something you carry within, and sometimes it's showing you what you've tried not to carry at all. Because the subconscious remembers everything. It stores what you reject, what you deny, what you silence. That pain you told yourself to forget, it remembers. That love you didn't allow yourself to feel, it remembers. That decision you buried because it was too heavy to face, still there, waiting. Not to punish you, but to be seen, to be felt, to be honored. Dreams are not cruel, they are compassionate. But compassion isn't always gentle. Sometimes it comes in the form of discomfort, a recurring nightmare, a strange figure that follows you. A room that feels too familiar, though you've never seen it before. These are not meaningless experiences, they are messages with meaning so deep it couldn't reach you in any other way. Your soul sends them in the language of imagery, because that's how it speaks to the parts of you that words cannot touch. Think about how often you suppress what you feel. You smile when you want to cry, you distract yourself when you should sit still. You say, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. The body keeps the score, yes, but so does the dream. And when the night falls, and you're finally quiet enough to hear what your soul has been whispering all along, the dream appears, and in its own mysterious way, it tells you the truth. You might dream of being lost in a city, not because you fear cities, but because you feel lost in your life. You might dream of being underwater, not because of oceans, but because you're drowning in emotion you haven't acknowledged. A dream of someone betraying you may not be about that person at all. It may be about the ways in which you've betrayed your own truth to keep the peace. These aren't coincidences, they're reflections. The dream doesn't fabricate, it reveals. This is why interpretation is not about logic, it's about honesty. It's about asking yourself what the dream brought up, not just what it showed. You don't need a degree in psychology or access to a symbol dictionary to understand your dreams. You need presence, you need willingness, you need the courage to feel what the dream is mirroring back to you, even if what it shows is uncomfortable. Because sometimes, dreams unearth old wounds, the ones you thought time had healed. But time does not heal what you refuse to face. It only buries it deeper. And the deeper it gets, the louder it cries out through your dreams. It may come in waves, in strange loops, in symbols that don't make sense until one day they do. The moment you stop dismissing your dreams and start sitting with them, listening to them, a new relationship begins. Not with your mind, but with your soul. There is a kind of sacred rebellion in choosing to look into the mirror of your dreams. It means you're no longer afraid to see yourself. Not just the parts you've curated, but the parts you've hidden. The ones still hurting, the ones still healing, the ones that shine, and the ones that tremble. It's all in there, woven into the stories your subconscious tells while your conscious mind sleeps. And when you begin to see your dreams this way, something opens. You no longer wake up confused or dismissive. You wake up curious. You ask yourself, what was I being shown? And even if the answer doesn't arrive immediately, you stay open. You carry the dream with you, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a mirror to be understood over time. There is wisdom in that mirror, and not just emotional wisdom, but spiritual wisdom. Because dreams don't only reflect your mental and emotional state, they reflect your energetic state too. They show you where your soul is trying to grow, what it's trying to shed, what it's preparing to become. Your dreams can reveal your next spiritual step long before you take it. They can show you the truth of a relationship before your waking mind is willing to admit it. They can guide you toward healing you didn't know you needed, but only if you're willing to look. You are not just a body having dreams, you are a soul remembering itself through symbols. Every night, you are invited to meet yourself again, not the self you present to the world, but the self who lives beneath. The self who cries without noise, who celebrates without witnesses, who holds the truth with trembling hands and sacred patience. And the dream, again and again, is the mirror. It does not judge, it simply reflects, and in that reflection, you are given a choice. Will you keep looking away, or will you finally see yourself? Because when you do, when you allow the dream to be more than entertainment, when you treat it like a sacred reflection, everything begins to shift. You begin to reclaim the pieces of yourself you once abandoned. You begin to feel more whole, more honest, more deeply connected to who you truly are. Dreams are not lies, they are layers, and within each one is a mirror. Some are cloudy, some are crystal clear, but all are sacred. And the more you look, the more you remember that the dream was never trying to trick you. It was only ever trying to show you what was already inside. What if I told you that the dreams you fear the most are the ones that hold the greatest key to your freedom? The ones that jolt you awake in the middle of the night with a pounding heart, the ones you try to forget as soon as the sun rises, the ones that haunt your thoughts long after you've opened your eyes. These are not curses, they are not mistakes, they are sacred invitations. Because while most people run from their shadow dreams, thinking they are nightmares meant to punish or frighten them, the truth is much more powerful. These dreams are not threats, they are mirrors. Every time your soul sends you into a dream filled with fear, it's not because it wants you to suffer, it's because it's showing you something that your waking mind has refused to look at. The soul is wise. It knows that what you avoid doesn't disappear, it just hides. And so, through dreams, your inner world brings the avoided to the surface, not to torment you, but to free you from it. That chase dream where you're running through endless hallways, pursued by something faceless. The dream where you're falling, with no end in sight. The one where you're standing on a ledge. Or suddenly lose control of your body, or die altogether. These are not prophecies, they are messages, symbols of what lies buried in your psyche, waiting to be acknowledged. The human tendency is to categorize dreams as good or bad based on how they feel. But in dream work, feeling afraid doesn't mean something is wrong, it means something real is being revealed. Fear in dreams is not the presence of danger, it is the echo of something unprocessed, something unresolved. Your soul isn't trying to scare you, it's trying to show you where you're still held hostage by your own inner shadows. Chase dreams are one of the most common expressions of this. You feel yourself being pursued by a figure you can't see clearly, or a creature, or even a faceless threat. It feels urgent, dangerous, suffocating. But ask yourself, what are you running from? Is it really a monster, or is it a part of you? Often, what chases us in dreams is a reflection of our own fear, grief, guilt, anger, trauma, given shape, so we can finally see it. The soul has to wrap the emotion in something vivid, because that's the only way the conscious mind will stop and notice. If it whispered, you'd ignore it. So it roars instead, not to hurt you, but to wake you. Falling dreams are another example. You feel weightless, spinning, plummeting through space. There's a moment when your stomach turns and your breath catches, and for that split second, it feels like death. But what is really falling? Is it you, or is it your sense of control? Falling dreams often come when you're holding too tightly to certainty, to structure, to identity. The fall represents the ego unraveling, a descent not into doom, but into surrender. Your soul is saying, let go. You are not as in control as you think. And that's not a punishment. It's a path back to peace. Then there are the death dreams, the ones that feel final. Maybe you die in the dream. Maybe someone close to you does. Maybe it's violent or still. Maybe it's sudden or slow. But the result is the same. You wake with a heaviness, a weight in your chest. These dreams are not predictions, they are transformations. Death in dreams is rarely about physical death. It is about the death of a belief, the death of an old identity, the death of a version of you that no longer serves your evolution. The soul uses the image of death not to terrify you, but to signify rebirth. Every ending in a dream points to a beginning if you're willing to let it. And what about the shadow figures? The ones that loom at the edges of the dream, the ones that make you feel watched, hunted, unsafe. These figures are not demons from the outside, they are aspects of your inner world made visible. They carry the energy of the parts of you that have been exiled, the anger you suppressed, the memories you buried, the pain you tried to ignore. In waking life, you push them down, but in the dream realm, there's nowhere to hide. So they rise up, cloaked in darkness, asking only one thing of you: recognition. The soul does not create fear in your dreams to punish you. It brings fear to the surface so you can face it in a realm where you are safe to do so, where there are no real-world consequences. In your dreams, you can walk up to the thing you fear, you can speak to it, you can look it in the eye, you can turn and stop running. That's why shadow dreams are sacred. They give you a space to rehearse courage before you live it in waking life. When you begin to approach these dreams not as nightmares, but as sacred mirrors, everything changes. You stop dreading sleep. You start listening. You understand that what disturbs you is also what heals you. And instead of waking up shaken and afraid, you wake up with insight, with clarity. You begin to see that the dream was not against you, it was for you, and you were never in danger. You were in revelation. The truth is, healing is rarely gentle. It's not all light and serenity. Sometimes healing is fierce, sometimes it screams. Sometimes it shows up in your dreams wearing a face you don't want to see, and it speaks in riddles you don't want to solve. But healing never arrives to destroy you. It arrives to strip away everything that is not true, and that process can feel terrifying, especially when it comes through dreams. But it is only by facing what you fear that you finally become free of it. So the next time you have a nightmare, don't push it away. Sit with it, write it down, ask it what it's trying to show you. What part of you have you refused to see? What old wound is still bleeding beneath the surface? What truth are you afraid to face? And then listen, not with judgment, not with fear, but with reverence, because your soul trusted you enough to bring this to light. You are not cursed for dreaming darkly. You are being called. Every shadow dream is a summons, a chance to retrieve a piece of yourself that has been left behind. And yes, it might be painful. Yes, it might be frightening. But it is also holy. Because when you turn toward the darkness in your dreams, you discover something astonishing. The darkness is not empty. It is full of truth, full of power, full of you. And once you face it, it no longer chases you. Once you look into the eyes of the monster, you realize it was never a monster at all. It was a messenger. So let the shadows rise. Let them speak, and dare to listen. Because your soul is not here to scare you. It's here to set you free. What if I told you that your recurring dreams aren't just random glitches in your subconscious? They are sacred loops from the soul, asking you to pay attention before it's too late. There's a unique weight to a dream that returns, a certain energy to it. It lingers differently. It doesn't fade in the morning like most others. Instead, it grows stronger with time. And as it repeats again and again, across months, sometimes even years, it begins to feel like something more than a dream. It begins to feel like a message that refuses to be ignored. That's because it is. Recurring dreams are not nuisances or mental loops. They are spiritual alarms. They are the soul's version of underlining something, circling it, and then bolding it in red. Every repetition is a louder knock on the door of your awareness. These dreams don't return because your mind is broken or forgetful. They return because something within you is still unresolved. There is unfinished business in the psyche, stagnant energy in the heart, unprocessed emotion, karmic memory, or an awakening that hasn't yet been heard. And so the soul tries again. Night after night, it weaves the same story, reuses the same symbols, reshapes the same scenes, until, eventually, if you're willing to listen, something inside you breaks open. Think back. Maybe you've had a dream that reappears every few weeks. Maybe it comes back once a year, always with the same backdrop, the same house you've never lived in, the same road you never seem to reach the end of, the same person staring at you without speaking. Or maybe it's a nightmare, one you've had since childhood, one that comes in waves, during moments of transition or stress. And though the images may shift slightly, the core of it remains untouched. This isn't meaningless. This is your inner world trying to guide you. The subconscious is a master of repetition, but not for the sake of redundancy. It repeats what hasn't been seen, what hasn't been healed, what hasn't been integrated, and so it sends the message again. You might ignore it once, twice, 100 times, but the soul is persistent, not forceful, but deeply committed. Each time the dream returns, it's carrying a sacred reminder. Something inside you still needs to be met. Sometimes it's trauma, a moment you tucked away, too painful to revisit. Other times, it's a choice you've avoided, a truth you've refused to accept, a part of yourself you've tried to forget. And sometimes, the repetition comes from lifetimes ago, a karmic loop, a soul contract that hasn't yet been fulfilled. The details may be murky, but the emotion is clear, that familiar sense of tension, that feeling that you've been here before. That's not just déjà vu, that's the energetic thread of unfinished soul work. Recurring dreams are invitations. They are portals into the hidden dimensions of your being. They are not punishments, they are opportunities. If a lesson is repeating, it means your soul believes you're capable of understanding it. It's a sign of faith, not failure. But to access the wisdom within a recurring dream, you must approach it differently. You can't just wake up, roll over, and dismiss it as another weird night. You have to become the student of it. Ask yourself, what is this dream trying to show me that I haven't yet seen? What is the emotion that always rises when I have it? Is it fear, guilt, longing, helplessness? What decisions in my waking life mirror this pattern? What am I avoiding that this dream keeps leading me back to? You see, the dream is a mirror, but a recurring dream is a looped mirror, a sacred echo that will not die until you answer it with awareness. And when you do, something shifts. Sometimes subtly, sometimes drastically. The dream changes, maybe it softens, maybe it evolves into something new, or maybe it disappears altogether, its purpose fulfilled. Either way, you'll know. You'll feel the shift in your chest. You'll wake up with a sense of closure, or at least clarity. But there's another layer here. Some recurring dreams aren't just showing you your wounds, they're showing you your mission. They're reminding you of what you came here to do. There are dreams that loop, not because of pain, but because of purpose. Dreams that keep calling you toward a forgotten destiny. They bring visions of flight, of healing, of creation, things you don't yet understand, but that feel familiar. These dreams aren't problems to solve, they're blueprints, pieces of your soul's original agreement surfacing night after night to remind you of who you really are beneath the noise of the world. You might dream of building something over and over, a house, a temple, a bridge. You might dream of teaching, guiding, saving, or flying, always with the same sense of urgency. These are not dreams to ignore, they are soul memories trying to come alive again. Each recurrence is a nudge. Wake up, remember why you came. There's an intelligence in your dreams that goes beyond your intellect. And when a dream repeats, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're being given a second chance, a third, 100th, to look, to feel, to remember, to act. This is where the power of intention comes in. If a recurring dream has followed you, don't wait for it to appear again, meet it halfway. Set the intention before sleep. If this dream returns, I'm ready to understand. I'm ready to see what I couldn't see before. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Make space for the message. The soul responds to reverence, and when you show up with presence and curiosity, the dream reveals more than just repetition. It begins to teach. You might find that within the repetition, there are subtle differences. The door you couldn't open before is now slightly ajar. The figure you feared is now standing farther away. The ending you never reached now feels closer. These changes are clues. They show you where healing has begun, where energy is shifting, where your soul is evolving. Dreams are not static. They move as you move. They reflect your growth. And recurring dreams, the ones that haunt you, heal you, and hold you accountable, are among the most sacred of all. Because they're not just about the dream world. They're about your waking one. They point to the patterns you live in every day, the cycles you repeat in relationships, in beliefs, in behavior. the places where you're still asleep to your own power. So the next time that dream returns, don't run, don't shake your head and dismiss it as nonsense. Sit with it, ask it what it's showing you, and most importantly, ask yourself what it would mean to finally break the loop. Because you can. You always could. The soul doesn't repeat itself to punish you, it repeats itself to awaken you. And when you finally receive the message, when you face the pattern, feel the emotion, and integrate the truth, the loop dissolves, the knock on the door quiets, and in its place, there is peace, there is space, there is evolution. The dream doesn't need to return once you've answered its call, and neither does the pain. What if I told you that some of your dreams aren't memories from the past, but whispers from the future? That flicker of déjà vu you've felt, the eerie moment when real life seems to replay something you swore you'd only dreamed, isn't just coincidence. It's resonance. It's your soul reminding you that time isn't as linear as you've been taught to believe. In waking life, you march forward second by second, anchored to a timeline that moves in one direction. But in the dream realm, time bends, it loops, it expands, it overlaps. And in that space where past, present, and future meet, your soul sometimes hands you a glimpse of what's to come. These are prophetic dreams. Not imagination, not wishful thinking, but transmissions. Previews sent through the thin veil of sleep. Downloads that bypass the rational mind and root themselves in your subconscious. Sometimes they arrive gently, an image, a place, a conversation you don't yet understand. Other times they come in full clarity, a vivid scene, a distinct moment, a message so specific it etches itself into your memory. And then, days, weeks, or years later, you find yourself living it. The same place, the same voice, the same emotion that visited you in a dream now unfolding in real time. This is not fantasy. This is soul memory in action. Your consciousness is not confined to the moment you're in. It stretches far beyond it. And when the physical body rests, that consciousness moves freely. It can travel to other timelines, observe different outcomes, collect data from futures you haven't yet walked. The dream realm becomes a meeting place where your soul, untethered by time, returns with glimpses from the infinite web of possibilities that lie ahead. Think of it like tuning into a frequency you didn't know existed. Most of the time, your waking mind is locked onto one narrow channel, the one you call reality. But in your dreams, that channel opens. You receive more, you sense more, you step into timelines that are already forming, that are vibrating just close enough to be felt. Your future is not fixed, it's alive. And the soul, unconstrained by time, touches those possibilities and sends back messages to prepare you, guide you, or sometimes warn you. You may dream of a conversation with someone you haven't met yet, only to recognize them months later, word for word. You may see a street, a building, a symbol that makes no sense, until you find yourself standing there, remembering. These moments shake you because they reveal something your conscious mind refuses to admit. You are not bound by the laws of time in the way you think. The future is not hidden, it's echoing, and if you're sensitive enough, if your soul is attuned, you'll feel it before it arrives. Some prophetic dreams come in service of clarity. They show you what's possible if you continue down a certain path. They aren't predictions, they're projections. They arise from the energetic momentum you've already set in motion. Your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, they ripple forward. And sometimes, the dream catches that ripple, captures the trajectory, and hands it back to you, as if to say, "Here's where you're headed. Is this what you want?" Other times, the dreams are course corrections, warnings wrapped in symbols. A dream of being trapped may point to a decision that will limit you. A dream of fire may signal that something important is being destroyed, or that it needs to be. These dreams don't come to scare you, they come to wake you, to offer you choice, to remind you that while some things may be written, much more remains unwritten. And with awareness, you can choose differently. Then there are the dreams that feel like time collapses. You wake up disoriented, unsure if you were in the future, the past, or something in between. Maybe you dream of an older version of yourself, wiser, calmer, whole. Maybe that version speaks to you, comforts you, encourages you to keep going. That's not imagination, that's you. That's your higher timeline, reaching through the dream to remind you who you're becoming. These dreams are gifts. They're not just glimpses forward, they're alignments. They help you calibrate your present self with the frequency of your future self. They help you remember that everything you desire already exists in some dimension, you just have to match it. Your dreams are not bound to this single thread of existence. They are multi-dimensional transmissions from the soul, and within them are timelines you've lived, timelines you're living, and timelines you haven't stepped into yet. The question isn't whether these dreams are real, the question is, are you listening? Prophetic dreams have been recorded throughout history, not just in sacred texts or mystic journals, but in the quiet lives of ordinary people who woke up knowing something they couldn't explain, a sense of urgency, a knowing, a name, an address, a warning. These dreams come not to control us, but to serve as invitations to wake up, to attune ourselves to the vast intelligence of the soul that sees what the eyes cannot, that feels what the hands cannot hold. You may have brushed these dreams aside in the past, maybe you've dismissed them as coincidence, or forgotten them in the rush of the morning. But what if you started writing them down? What if you paid attention to the way your body felt in the dream, the colors you saw, the people who appeared out of nowhere with a message on their lips? What if you treated each dream like a sacred telegram from the future, asking to be heard? It's not just about the dream itself, it's about what the dream is trying to prepare you for. That's why sometimes a dream repeats. It's not because the soul ran out of ideas, it's because the message hasn't been received. A recurring dream may be a future event, asking to be integrated, a thread that must be pulled before it becomes your reality. The more you ignore it, the more insistent it becomes, not as punishment, but as guidance. And it's important to remember that not all timelines are fixed. Just because you see something in a dream doesn't mean it must unfold that way. The future is fluid. Prophetic dreams don't take away your choice, they expand it. They show you what might be, so you can decide what will be. They are invitations to align, to intervene, to prepare, and sometimes to surrender. There is a language that exists beyond the spoken word, beyond reason, beyond calendars and clocks, and your dreams are fluent in that language. Especially the ones that leave you with a lingering sense of something unfinished or strangely familiar, especially the ones that feel like memories from a life you haven't lived yet. Those are soul memories, fragments of timelines just beginning to bloom. Don't ignore them, feel them, honor them, let them be the compass they were designed to be. You were never meant to walk blind into your future. Your soul has always been reaching forward and backward, collecting pieces of what you need, planting them in your dreams, hoping you would notice, and now, maybe you're starting to. So pay attention, write it down, reflect. The future is not a stranger, it has been visiting you in your sleep for years, and all it's ever wanted was for you to remember. What if I told you that some dreams are not dreams at all? They're visitations. You may not realize it at first. You might wake up with tears in your eyes, your heart aching from something you can't quite explain. The room feels charged, the silence different. A weightless presence lingers in the air, and though your rational mind may try to dismiss it, chalk it up to memories or imagination, your soul knows the truth. You were not alone. There are moments in your life when the veil between worlds thins, not just metaphorically, but experientially. Dreams are one of those sacred spaces. When your body rests, when the conscious mind goes quiet, when ego and intellect step aside, a door opens. Through that door, something miraculous can happen. A soul you love or a soul who loves you can step through, not as a memory, but as a presence. These are not ordinary dreams. You know that the moment you wake, they carry a different texture, a different tone. While most dreams fade quickly, these stay with you. They're crystal clear. The colors are more vivid, the voices more familiar, and the emotions run so deep they live in your body long after the dream ends. You feel the touch, the warmth, the eye contact. You may smell something, a familiar perfume, a certain food, a trace of their presence. That's not imagination, that's connection. When you experience a true visitation dream, it's not just your mind replaying a memory, it's a moment of soul-to-soul contact. Something real, something sacred. The spirits of loved ones, ancestors and guides do not disappear when they leave this realm. They simply shift form. They exist on a higher frequency, one that is hard to access while awake, but much easier to reach in dreams. And when the timing is right, when the need is strong, or the bond is unbreakable, they come, not as ghosts or apparitions, but as themselves, whole, healed, radiant, and often, they don't say much. In fact, some visitation dreams include very little dialogue at all, but the silence is rich. You feel everything. The love, the peace, the message, it's all transmitted without words. Or if they do speak, what they say is simple, but unforgettable. They might tell you they're okay. They might give you guidance you've been praying for. Or they may simply stand beside you, look into your eyes, and let their presence say what words cannot. The clearest marker of a visitation dream is how it feels. There's no confusion, no chaos, no fragmented randomness. You wake up with clarity, even if the meaning is still unfolding. You don't feel disoriented, you feel moved. The emotional imprint is unmistakable. You might feel comforted, overwhelmed with love, or struck with sudden knowing. Sometimes the dream brings closure to something unfinished. Other times, it simply reminds you that death is not the end, not of connection, not of love, not of presence. These dreams are gifts. They don't always come when you want them to, but they always come when your soul is ready, and when the soul on the other side is able to reach you. You can't force them. You can only become open to receiving them. And that begins with reverence. Start by recognizing that the dream space is sacred. It is not just where your mind processes the day, it is where the soul travels. Set the intention before you sleep. Speak it out loud. Invite connection. Say to the universe, to your ancestors, to your loved ones, if it is aligned, if it is safe, if it serves the highest good, I welcome your presence. This is not about summoning or control, it's about invitation, alignment, and heart-led openness. When you do receive a visitation, don't rush past it. Don't wake up and bury it under distraction. Write it down immediately. Capture every detail you can remember. How did they look? What were they wearing? Where were you? What was the atmosphere? Did they say anything? Did they touch you? What did you feel in your body? Even if the dream was brief, even if it only lasted a few seconds, those moments are sacred. They are real. In that dream, your soul touched another, your hearts met again. And while the conscious mind might struggle to comprehend it, your deeper self already knows the truth. This was not fantasy, this was presence. Sometimes, visitation dreams arrive on important dates, birthdays, anniversaries, moments of emotional difficulty. That's not coincidence, it's orchestration. The soul that visits you is aware of your path. They know when you're in need, and even if they can't change the circumstances of your life, they can remind you that you are not walking alone. In many cases, visitation dreams are also deeply healing. They soften grief, they mend unresolved emotions, they bring light into the places that once only held sorrow. You may find that a dream helps you forgive someone you couldn't forgive while they were alive, or that a message delivered in a dream finally gives you permission to move forward. These aren't hallucinations. They're part of your soul's healing journey, and they come when you're ready to receive their medicine. It's also important to know that not all visitations come from people you've known. Sometimes a guide will appear, a being of light, a figure from your ancestry, a spirit who feels familiar but unplaceable. Trust your feeling. The language of the soul is not logic, it's recognition. If you feel love, safety, warmth, and clarity in the presence of this being, trust that it came from a higher realm. Guides appear in many forms, sometimes as protectors, sometimes as teachers, and often just as reminders that you are deeply loved from dimensions you cannot yet see. If the visitation brings up emotion, cry, feel it, let it wash through you. That's part of the release, that's part of the healing. Don't try to analyze the dream too quickly. Let the message unfold on its own time. Often, The meaning of a visitation reveals itself over the course of days or weeks. It comes through synchronicities, conversations, even other dreams that follow. Stay open. The connection doesn't end when the dream does. And above all, speak gratitude. Even silently. Even if you're unsure of what happened. Thank them. Thank your own soul for being willing to receive. Thank the universe for creating space for the meeting. Gratitude amplifies connection. It tells the spiritual realm, I'm listening, I'm open, I'm ready for more. Dreams can be many things, metaphors, messages, mirrors, but sometimes they're doors. And through those doors, love walks in, not as memory, but as presence, whole, undeniable, and eternal. When you receive a visitation, know that it happened because you were loved enough to be found, even across dimensions, even beyond time, and that love, that connection, is never truly lost. It only changes form, and through your dreams, it continues to live. What if I told you that there's a moment in your sleep when you become more awake than you've ever been? That buried within your dreams is a key, a shift in awareness that changes everything. You've likely experienced it, even if only for a fleeting instant. You're in the middle of a dream when suddenly, something clicks. The world around you continues to morph and move, but your awareness sharpens. You realize this is a dream. You're dreaming. And in that moment, you are no longer just a character in the story. You are the storyteller. This is lucidity, a state where the dreaming and waking mind shake hands, where you walk the realm of the soul with the presence of a conscious witness. Lucid dreams are not fantasies. They are gateways. They are what happens when awareness follows you into the dreamscape, allowing you to remember yourself even in the middle of illusion. Most of your dreams play out like a movie you're watching, passively, strange, symbolic, fleeting. But when lucidity arises, you step through the screen and into the director's chair. You know the world around you is made of mind stuff, and because of that, you can shape it. But lucid dreaming isn't just about control. It's about communion. It's not a trick or an escape. It's an invitation to explore the subconscious with clarity, to engage with the deeper parts of yourself in real time. You're not just dreaming, you're consciously dreaming. And in that space, the soul becomes visible. The veil thins, the rules shift. And if you're paying attention, you can use that space to heal, to create, and even to connect with higher realms of consciousness. Imagine finding yourself standing in a vast, otherworldly landscape, and instead of questioning whether it's real, you recognize it as the dream realm. You look around and know that everything here, every mountain, every figure, every color in the sky, is a reflection of your own inner world. And then, something profound happens. You choose. You choose where to go, you choose who to speak to, you choose to fly, or walk through walls, or ask the universe a question. You become a conscious participant in the soul's nightly symphony. Not because you're trying to escape life, but because you're finally meeting it on its most subtle level. Lucid dreams reveal that your awareness is far more powerful than you've ever been taught. They show you that consciousness is not confined to the physical body, that your inner world is not a prison but a playground, a classroom, a temple. In this lucid state, healing can happen almost instantly. You can face an old fear and walk directly into it. You can call forth a memory and embrace it. You can meet the part of yourself that you've rejected and ask it why it hid from you for so long. And because the dreamscape responds to intention faster than the physical world ever could, transformation becomes immediate. Think of the possibilities. A person carrying grief might find themselves in a lucid dream standing before the loved one they lost, able to say the words they never could in waking life. A person battling self-doubt might call forward their future self, confident, radiant, whole, and feel that version of themselves speaking back, reminding them of who they really are. A person seeking answers might ask a question aloud and watch as the dream responds not in a voice, but in a wave of imagery and insight that pierces straight through the fog of confusion. This is the power of lucidity. It isn't just about flying or walking through imaginary cities, it's about remembering that you are the bridge between the dream and the dreamer. And when that awareness lights up inside of you, It doesn't just stay in the dream, it follows you back. You wake up changed. You wake up more aware of the dream-like nature of waking life itself. Because here's the deeper truth: waking life is not as solid as it seems. The same way you forget you're dreaming while asleep, you also forget you're dreaming while awake. You take everything at face value. You react without reflection. But when you start lucid dreaming regularly, you begin to notice something startling. Both realms, waking and dreaming, are built of thought, perception, and belief. Both can be shaped by consciousness. Lucidity in the dream leads to lucidity in life. You begin to ask yourself more often, am I fully awake right now? Am I aware of the choices I'm making? Or am I moving on autopilot? Am I shaping my reality consciously, or just reacting to the script I've been handed? These questions aren't philosophical exercises, they're keys. And lucid dreaming hands them to you every time you choose to become aware inside the sleeping mind. Some people use lucidity to explore spiritual questions. They seek out guides in the dream realm, beings who radiate wisdom and offer insight beyond what the logical mind could ever produce. These are not fantasies. They are reflections of higher consciousness, facets of your own divine intelligence speaking to you through the language of dreams. Others use lucid dreams to step into versions of themselves they haven't yet embodied. They rehearse courage, they practice forgiveness, they feel what it's like to be free of fear, and when they return to waking life, something lingers, a memory, a shift, a knowing. The practice of becoming lucid can be cultivated. It often begins with intention. Before sleep, you tell yourself, "Tonight, I will remember, I'm dreaming." You write down your dreams each morning, training your mind to notice the patterns. You learn to recognize dream signs, recurring themes that signal you're in a dream, and slowly, something opens. You catch yourself in the act of dreaming more often. You remember more. You wake up inside your own mind. But here's the secret most people don't realize. Lucidity isn't something you force, it's something you allow. It's not about control, it's about presence. The more present you become in your breath, in your thoughts, in your emotions, the more easily you'll slip into lucidity, both in dreams and in life. It's the practice of remembering, over and over, that you are not the chaos around you, you are the stillness within it. And once you've tasted that stillness, even for a moment, you can never unknow it. You start seeing the world differently. You start responding instead of reacting. You become aware of your own narrative, and more importantly, your power to rewrite it. Lucid dreaming doesn't just show you that you can create within a dream, it reminds you that you are always creating. With every thought, every emotion, every belief, you are painting the canvas of your life. So, what if your dream last night wasn't just a fantasy? What if it was training? What if it was a meeting? What if it was a glimpse into the part of you that never sleeps, that always knows, that lives outside of time and guides you night after night from behind the scenes? You are not a passive sleeper. You are a conscious creator. And within your dreams, especially the lucid ones, you are handed a rare opportunity to meet yourself fully, to heal without barriers, to remember that awareness is not limited to the daylight. It follows you wherever you go, even into the heart of your dreams. And the more you embrace this, the more you realize you were never just dreaming. You were remembering how to wake up. What if I told you that while your body sleeps, your soul might be doing some of the most important work of your entire life? There are nights when you wake up feeling like you've run a marathon. Your body was still, your eyes were closed, and yet you rise with a heaviness, a weight, sometimes even a strange fatigue that has no physical explanation. And deep down, you know you weren't just resting. Something else was happening. Something deeper. Something unseen. That's because while your physical form lies in bed, your soul doesn't sleep. In fact, it often becomes more active, more expansive, more attuned to its original nature. Sleep is not just a break from the day, it is a gateway into another dimension of your being, one where soul work begins. Soul work isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's quiet and sacred. It's the unspoken agreements your soul has made with the universe to learn, to heal, to help, to evolve. And many of these agreements can only unfold in dream states, because that's when your consciousness becomes unbound. That's when the limits of time and space dissolve. That's when you are free to move beyond your body and remember who you are beyond form. There are different layers to this. Sometimes, your soul journeys into places beyond this earthly plane, realms of light, libraries of wisdom, healing temples made of frequency. These are not fantasies. They are soul realities. You may not consciously remember them, but your higher awareness does. This is why some dreams feel unlike anything else. The texture is different, the atmosphere unfamiliar. You wake up feeling like you've been somewhere, but you can't explain where. That sense of displacement, that strange pull in your chest, is not confusion. It's the residue of spiritual travel. Astral travel is one form of soul work. It's when your consciousness separates from the body and moves through different dimensions. You may visit people, timelines, or places that your physical body cannot reach. Sometimes, this travel is spontaneous. Other times, it's intentional, a calling from the soul. You may meet guides. You may explore symbols that feel more real than anything you've touched in waking life. You may even find yourself soaring not in metaphor, but in the experience of absolute weightlessness. These moments aren't random. They're glimpses of your true nature, eternal, multidimensional, free. And sometimes, your soul works not just for your own growth, but for the healing of others. You may not be aware of it, but while you sleep, you could be offering support to someone else, a friend in need, a loved one in pain, a soul you've never met in this life, but whose energy you recognize from lifetimes past. Light work in dream space is subtle, but sacred. It's when you act as a vessel, channeling peace, offering wisdom, holding space for another soul's release. And though you may not remember it clearly, the exhaustion you feel upon waking is often the echo of that unseen service. This is why some dreams leave you tired. It's not just because of intense emotion or narrative chaos. It's because your energy was used, your soul stepped into its purpose even while your body rested. That sense of depletion is not failure, it's evidence of impact. And the more sensitive you become, the more aware you'll be of when this happens. You'll start to notice which nights feel normal and which nights feel like something else entirely. You'll start to track the difference between psychological processing and spiritual labor. They both matter, but they carry different frequencies. You might dream of helping people escape danger, of guiding lost souls through mazes, of speaking in languages you don't consciously know. You might see yourself in a hospital made of light, a temple that radiates color, a school with no walls where souls gather to remember what they've forgotten. These are not ordinary dreams, these are initiations, missions, echoes of the role your soul has chosen to play in the great unfolding of consciousness. And even though you may not fully remember these journeys, your energy remembers. That's why some mornings you feel both tired and strangely clear. Your eyes may be heavy, but your heart is open. You may not be able to explain why, but you feel more connected to something higher, to something deeper. That's the afterglow of soul work. It doesn't always make sense, but it always leaves a mark. Sometimes, the work is internal. Your soul dives into your own archives, pulling out old memories, past life fragments, energetic wounds that are ready to be released. These dreams can be intense. You might wake up crying, or shaking, or feeling like something just left you. That's because it did. A pattern, a pain, a belief that no longer serves. Dream healing is not symbolic, it's cellular. It shifts energy from the root. It doesn't need words to be real. And other times, the soul uses dream space to show you who you're becoming. You might see yourself doing things you're not yet ready to do in waking life, speaking your truth, walking away from what no longer serves, embodying your power without apology. These dreams are not fantasies. They are previews. They are your soul saying, "This is where you're going. This is what's possible. This is who you are beneath the fear." The Rans is wearing for lies, not for lies in unbegraph. Send is woes. When you understand that your dreams are not just mental stories, but spiritual movements, you start to treat them differently. You approach sleep not just as rest, but as reunion. You begin to prepare your body like a temple, softening your breath, setting intentions, creating space for connection. And when you wake, you take note. You reflect. You ask yourself not just, what did I dream, but, what was I doing? Who was I with? What was I learning, healing, or offering? The more you honor this process, the more it opens. Your recall sharpens. Your dreams become more vivid. The symbolic becomes tangible. And the soul work becomes not just something that happens while you sleep, but something that integrates into your waking life. You start to see how the healing you did in a dream shows up in your reactions the next day. You start to feel more calm, more centered, more aligned, even if nothing external has changed. This is the hidden grace of dream work. It doesn't always shout. It doesn't always announce itself. But slowly, silently, it changes everything. It clears what needs to be cleared. It strengthens what was once weak. It reminds you over and over that you are more than this body, this moment, this life. You are a soul on a mission, and that mission doesn't stop when the sun goes down. So, the next time you wake up exhausted without knowing why, the next time you feel like your dreams carried weight too heavy to name, pause before brushing it off. Maybe your soul was working. Maybe it still is. And maybe, just maybe, the most important thing you did yesterday wasn't what happened during the day, but what you healed, offered, and remembered while you were asleep. What if I told you that every dream you've ever had was speaking directly to you in a language older than words? Not one dream has been random, not one image, not one strange twist in the story, not even the ones that seemed like nonsense. All of it, every symbol, every scene, has meaning. But not the kind of meaning you can look up in a book or find with a quick search. Because dream symbols are not fixed definitions. They are personal, emotional, and deeply intuitive. And until you begin to interpret them from the inside out, you'll always feel like something vital is being missed. The language of dreams is the language of the soul, and the soul doesn't speak with words, it speaks in symbols. Not because it's trying to confuse you, but because symbols carry energy. They can hold multiple truths at once. A single symbol can stretch itself around your feelings, your memories, your fears, and your hopes all at once, communicating in an instant what paragraphs of words never could. A spider might terrify one person, but empower another. A house might mean safety for you, and imprisonment for someone else. The meaning is never just in the thing, it's in the feeling it evokes. That's why the first step in decoding a dream isn't to analyze, it's to feel. When you wake up from a dream and a certain object or moment stands out, ask yourself, what did that feel like? Not what does it mean logically, what does it feel like in your body? Did it bring peace or panic? Did it make you feel seen or threatened? Did it remind you of something from your past? That emotion is the beginning of the message. If you dream of being in a room filled with water, your first instinct might be to wonder what water means. But before rushing into that, ask yourself, how did you feel in that water? Were you drowning? Floating? Watching it rise? Did it feel like cleansing or suffocating? The water itself isn't the message, your experience of it is. That's the part the soul wants you to explore. And yet, most people skip this step. They wake up and immediately try to make the dream make sense. They look for a dream dictionary. They assume there must be a universal code that will unlock the answer. But symbols don't work that way. They're like mirrors. They reflect your inner landscape, your emotional truth in that moment. So no dictionary can tell you what a staircase, or a wolf, or a wedding dress means for you. You already know. You just have to learn to listen in the right way. This is where dream journaling becomes essential. Not just as a place to record the images, but as a space to reflect on them. The moment you wake up, write down everything you can remember. Not just the events, write how you felt, what stood out, what repeated, what confused you. Even if it makes no sense, write it. The act of putting it into words anchors it in your awareness, and over time, a remarkable thing begins to happen. Patterns emerge. You might notice you often dream of elevators, or mirrors, or being chased. You might notice the same person keeps showing up, or that the dreams always occur in a certain type of building. These are your personal symbols. They are part of your soul's unique alphabet. And once you begin to recognize them, you start to build fluency. You realize that certain symbols show up when you're resisting change, others when you're healing, others when you're ready for something new. The more you track, the more the language unfolds. Another powerful tool is emotional recall. When you review a dream, don't just think about what happened, try to feel what happened. Close your eyes, revisit the dream in your mind, and pay attention to how your body responds. Did your stomach tighten? Did your chest open? Did you feel heavy, light, trapped, excited? That's your intuition speaking. It's pointing you toward what the symbol means to you, and that emotional resonance is worth more than any intellectual explanation. For example, let's say you dream of flying. One person might interpret that as freedom, another might see it as escape, someone else might feel completely out of control. The symbol is the same, but the meaning is different, because the emotional imprint is different. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Dream interpretation is not about cracking a code, it's about learning your own symbolic language, and no one else can speak it for you. Some dreams speak loudly. Their symbols are bold, clear, unforgettable. Others are quieter, subtle impressions that vanish within minutes of waking. But even those soft dreams are trying to tell you something. If you start your day feeling off, unsettled, or unusually emotional, there's a good chance your dream left something unresolved. That's why building the habit of reflection matters. Even 5 minutes in the morning can open a door. The key is presence, curiosity, willingness to feel, not just think. And here's something else. Your dreams are listening to you too. The more attention you give them, the more detailed and vivid they become. It's like any relationship. When you show up consistently, the communication deepens. You start to notice that your dreams respond to your questions, your intentions, your focus. You can even begin to ask them directly. What do I need to see? What am I not facing? Where is my soul guiding me? And often, you'll be shown, maybe not in a literal answer, but in an image that stirs something true in you. Eventually, you realize that the symbols don't exist only in your dreams, they bleed into waking life too. You start seeing them in books, in conversations, in the synchronicities that show up when you need them most. You begin to understand that everything is speaking, that life itself is symbolic, and that the inner and outer worlds are always mirroring each other. A hawk, flying overhead, becomes more than just a bird, it's a message. A broken watch on the ground becomes a nudge to slow down. A sudden song on the radio carries a lyric you dreamed of nights ago, and it hits you. Your dreams have been trying to teach you this all along. This isn't about superstition, it's about awareness. It's about trusting that your subconscious is more intelligent than you've given it credit for, that your soul knows how to speak to you if you learn how to listen. And once you become fluent in that symbolic language, your entire inner world opens. You're no longer confused by your dreams, you're guided by them. You're no longer dismissing symbols as strange, you're honoring them as sacred. So the next time you wake up with an image in your mind, don't rush past it. Don't look it up. Sit with it. Feel it. Ask it what it wants you to know. Write it down, even if it makes no sense. Especially if it makes no sense, because often the messages that feel the most mysterious are the ones that carry the deepest truth. And as you do this, something begins to shift. The symbols become clearer, the stories make more sense, your intuition sharpens, your connection to yourself deepens, and suddenly you realize you were never meant to be confused by your dreams. You were meant to be changed by them. What if I told you that the gap between your dream life and your waking life is not as wide as you've been led to believe? You've probably been taught to see your dreams as something separate, as stories that unravel while your body rests, disconnected from the real world you wake into each morning. But that's a lie. Your dream life isn't a parallel universe, it's a mirror. And not just any mirror, a divine one. It reflects not only your inner world, but it shapes your outer world too. And when you begin to notice the conversation between the two, everything starts to shift. Your life becomes more aligned, more intentional, more guided. What was once hidden becomes visible. What was once symbolic becomes actual. Every night, your soul speaks. Through color, motion, faces, feelings, and symbols, it tells you exactly where you are, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, and when you wake, that story continues. Not with symbols this time, but with situations, people, decisions, challenges. The two worlds are not separate, they are speaking to each other constantly. And the more you learn to listen, the more clearly you see that everything you experience while dreaming is pointing toward what needs attention while you're awake. Maybe you dream of a door you can't open, and then, days later, you find yourself hesitating to say what you really mean in a conversation. The door was never just a door, it was a symbol of the opportunity you won't walk through because of fear. Maybe you dream of falling over and over again, always trying to hold on to something unstable. And then you realize you've been clinging to a relationship, a belief, a version of yourself that no longer supports who you're becoming. Your dreams don't show you different realities just for entertainment. They show you emotional truths before your conscious mind is ready to face them. Your soul doesn't separate the night from the day. To your higher self, it's all one long continuum of consciousness, different expressions of the same journey. And this is why when you begin to listen to your dreams with reverence, your waking life begins to transform. You start to act with more clarity, you stop ignoring red flags, you speak your truth sooner. You feel more connected to your intuition because you are. Dream symbols become compass points. They stop being puzzles and start becoming portals. Every image, every loop, every fragment is trying to guide you not just within your sleep, but through your choices, your actions, your alignment. The moment you treat your dreams as sacred information, you open a new pathway inside of yourself. You stop chasing answers outside of you. You begin turning inward first. You consult the messages that come when you're most unguarded, when your ego is asleep and your soul is honest. And the more you honor those messages, the louder they become. You'll notice that guidance doesn't only come while you sleep, it begins to bleed into your waking hours. You'll hear a sentence in a conversation that echoes the exact message of your dream. You'll see a symbol repeated on a billboard, in a book, in a song. You'll sense that your life is trying to tell you something because it is. This is what happens when you bring alignment between your waking and dreaming life. The line blurs, and truth becomes undeniable. You stop asking whether something was a sign, and you start trusting that everything is. You begin to see the wisdom behind every delay, the message in every obstacle, the sacred pattern behind every so-called coincidence. And you don't just see it, you live it. You take the dream of standing up for yourself, and you actually speak the truth you've been holding in. You take the dream of the crumbling house, and you finally admit that the foundation of your life needs rebuilding. You take the dream of flying, and you stop shrinking yourself to fit inside cages you were never meant to stay in. Dreams are blueprints, and when you ignore them, you build your life on shaky ground. But when you honor them, you build with intention. You let your soul lead, you allow the unseen to become seen, and that's when your life starts to reflect the truth of who you really are. It becomes richer, more meaningful, more aligned with your purpose. There's a reason certain symbols keep appearing, a reason certain people visit your dreams, a reason you're shown specific places, colors, scenarios. Your soul doesn't waste energy on repetition unless it's necessary. If something keeps showing up, it's because you haven't integrated its message yet. You're being asked to look again, to feel deeper, to act differently, not just in the dream, but in your waking choices. And this is where courage comes in, because soul-guided action is rarely comfortable. The truth that your dreams reveal may not be easy to accept. They may call you to leave what's familiar, to face what you've buried, to stop pretending and start living. But here's the truth. Your dreams already believe you can handle it. Otherwise, they wouldn't show you. Your soul never sends you messages you're not ready to receive. It only sends what you're ready to grow into. The more you respond to these messages, the more powerful the feedback loop becomes. You'll notice your dreams becoming more vivid, more direct, less cryptic. They trust you now. They know you're listening, and your waking life, it begins to flow. Resistance eases, synchronicities multiply, clarity sharpens. You begin to feel supported not just by life, but by your own inner guidance system. And yet, this isn't about decoding everything perfectly. It's not about becoming fluent overnight in the symbolic language of the soul. It's about relationship. It's about presence. It's about showing up each morning and asking, what am I being shown, even if you don't fully understand yet? It's about trusting the feeling behind the symbol, the intuition behind the message, the nudge behind the imagery. Your life and your dreams are not separate. They are a dialogue. One speaks in the language of reality, the other in the language of metaphor. But they are always in communication. And when you begin to bridge them, when you start honoring the dream by living its wisdom, you don't just evolve, you awaken. You wake up not only from sleep, but from illusion. You begin to see clearly, not just in the night, but in the light. And that is the sacred reward of alignment. A life lived not by default, but by divine design, a path that reflects the soul who walks it. A journey that speaks the language of your dreams, even when you're fully awake. What if I told you that the boundary between dream and waking life has always been an illusion? All your life, you've been taught to split your experience in two, one world called real, and the other dismissed as fantasy. You wake up in the morning and say the dream wasn't real. You shake off the images, the symbols, the feelings, because that's what we've all been conditioned to do. But what if the dream didn't end when you opened your eyes? What if this moment right now, this waking life you call reality, is just another layer of the same dream? And what if, beneath it all, you are not just a participant, you are the dreamer? This realization doesn't come from logic. It arrives like a ripple through your being. It comes the moment you begin to notice that the same energy animates both worlds, the same strangeness, the same beauty, the same symbols. You start to see that the waking world is just as malleable as the dream, that your thoughts shape your reality here just as much as they do while you sleep, that both realms respond to consciousness, and that the one witnessing it all is you. You are the observer behind the form, the one who notices the dream, the one who can shift it just by becoming aware. And when you recognize this, everything changes. You are no longer just a body moving through time. You are awareness itself. You are the dreamer within the dream, the still presence beneath the stories, the field of consciousness creating it all. This doesn't mean the world around you isn't meaningful. Quite the opposite. It means it's more meaningful. Because when you understand that reality is a projection of consciousness, you stop treating it like something static. You stop waiting for permission to change. You realize that just like in your dreams, the waking world is rich with metaphor, with messages, with mirrors. Every person you meet, every challenge you face, every path you walk, it's all responding to you, reflecting you, helping you remember who you really are. The more you tune into this, the more life begins to shimmer. The lines between inner and outer start to dissolve. You see that your relationships are echoes of your inner beliefs. You notice that your emotions shape your environment. You witness your thoughts playing out in real time through synchronicities, signs, and seemingly chance events. And just like in a lucid dream, you become aware within the illusion, and with that awareness comes freedom. You no longer sleepwalk through your days. You begin to participate consciously. You choose with clarity. You act from presence. You understand that this life is not something happening to you. It is unfolding through you. And this shift from victim to creator, from passenger to pilot, is the moment you begin to live awake. But here's the deeper truth. You were never really asleep. You were dreaming, yes. But dreaming is not the absence of consciousness. It is the terrain where consciousness expresses itself most freely. And the more you embrace your dreams, the more you realize they've been training you for this moment all along. Every symbol, every message, every shadow you've faced, it was preparation. Because your soul didn't just want you to dream at night, it wanted you to awaken inside the dream of life itself. That's why reclaiming your relationship with dreams is so powerful. It's not just about interpreting symbols or seeking messages, it's about remembering your role as the dreamer. It's about realizing that your inner world is not separate from your outer one, that the veil is thinner than you thought, that both realms are made of the same substance consciousness. And when you begin to live with that awareness, you don't just visit your soul while you sleep, you walk with it every moment you're awake. This changes how you respond to challenges. Instead of seeing them as punishment, you see them as part of the narrative your soul has written for your growth. You stop resisting the story, you start reading it. You find wisdom even in the chaos, meaning even in the struggle. Because now you understand that you are not at the mercy of the dream, you are the one dreaming it. Even pain becomes a message, fear becomes a teacher, confusion becomes a signpost pointing inward. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this dream trying to show me?" That question alone holds power, because it lifts you from passivity into presence. It reminds you that you always have a choice, to react unconsciously or respond from awareness. And as you live from this awareness, a quiet joy begins to rise. Not the fleeting joy that depends on outcomes, but the steady joy that comes from remembering who you are. The joy of knowing that nothing is wasted, that every step has meaning, that you are both the artist and the canvas, the storm and the stillness, the dream and the dreamer. Some might say this is illusion, that waking life is solid, and dreams are shadows. But look closer. What is this moment made of, if not thoughts, sensations, impressions? What is memory, if not a dream of the past? What is imagination, if not a dream of what could be? Your entire reality is shaped by perception, and perception is fluid, just like a dream. This is not a philosophy, it's a lived experience. The more you open to it, the more real it becomes. You find yourself moving through life with reverence. You speak more slowly, more intentionally. You listen more deeply. You begin to treat each interaction like a scene you're both witnessing and creating. Not because you're pretending, but because you've remembered the truth, that all of this is sacred. You are sacred. Your dreams are sacred. Your life, this dream within the dream, is sacred. And the more you honor that, the more you awaken. Not in a dramatic flash, but in subtle, luminous layers. You find yourself waking up again and again to truth, to beauty, to presence. Until one day, you realize there is no separation. Not between sleep and wakefulness. Not between the soul and the self. Not between you and the dream, because you were never in the dream. You've been dreaming it all along. And now, at last, you're ready to dream with your eyes open.